The universe is infinite but bounded, and therefore, a beam of light, in whatever direction it may travel, will after billions of centuries return, if powerful enough, to the point of its departure. And it is no different with rumor that flies about from star to star and makes the rounds of every planet. One day, Troll heard distant reports of two mighty constructor benefactors, so wise and so accomplished that they had no equal. With this news, he ran to Cautious, who explained to him that these were not mysterious rivals, but only themselves, for their fame had circumnavigated space. In those days, Troll was exceedingly vain, receiving all marks of veneration and honor paid to him as his due and a perfectly normal thing.
Here you are, sir. You can rule over it forever. With these, you can program wars, quell rebellions, exact tributes, collect taxes, do everything you need to rule.
Yes, yes, I see.
I also instructed him in the critical points and transitional states of that micro-miniaturized society. In other words, I explained to him the ways of palace coups and revolutions. He was an old hand in the running of tyrannies and instantly grasped the directions and issued a few trial proclamations without much hesitation. These proclamations declared a state of emergency, a curfew, a special levy, martial law. After a year had passed in that kingdom, which amounted to no more than a few minutes to the king and I, he abolished by an act of the greatest magnanimity, by a flick of the finger at the controls, you see, he abolished one death penalty, lightened the levy, and deigned to annul the special state of emergency. You should have heard the people. A tumultuous cry of gratitude rose up from the box like the squeaking of a tiny mouse lifted up by their tails. And with the magnifying glass, we could see them on the highways, on the banks of the rivers, in the streets, rejoicing and praising the unsurpassed benevolence of their sovereign lord.
Well, it's a bit small. But I must admit that government is not measured in meters and kilograms. And their emotions seem genuine enough. Yes. Well, thank you.
Have you given that despot, that slave driver, that born sadist, a whole civilization to rule over forever? And you tell me his people cried out for joy when he repealed a fraction of his merciless decrees? Troll, how could you do such a thing?
You're joking, really? The whole kingdom fits into a box, 3 feet by 2 by 2.5. It's only a model.
A model? Of what?
What do you mean of what? Of a civilization, obviously. Except that it's 100 million times smaller.
And how do you know there aren't civilizations 100 times larger than ours? And is ours, then, a model? Anyway, what importance do dimensions have? A journey from the center of the box to one of the corners takes months for the inhabitants of the box. And don't they suffer? Don't they need the burden of labor? Don't they die?
Now, wait a minute. You know yourself that all these processes take place only because I programmed them, and so they aren't genuine.
Oh, they aren't genuine. So the box is empty. And all these processions, parades, and beheadings are all a mere illusion?
An illusion, no, since they have reality. They're purely a certain microscopic phenomena which I produce by manipulating atoms. The point is that all these births, loves, acts of heroism, denunciations are nothing but the minuscule caperings of electrons in space which I arrange with all the skill of my craft, which of course...
Enough of your boasting. Are these processes self-organized or are they not?
Of course they are.
They occur within the infinitesimal clouds of electron charges.
You know they do.
even when we dream. What happens in our brain but the binary algebra of connecting and disconnecting charges? The continual meandering of electrons. You have taken an untold number of creatures capable of suffering and abandoned them forever to the rule of a merciless tyrant. Troll, you have committed a terrible crime.
Sheer sophistry. It's impossible to say whether they suffer in the process. The electrons jumping about in their heads will tell you nothing of that.
But if I look inside your head, all I will see is also electrons jumping about. No, Troll. A sufferer is not somebody who hands you his suffering so that you can feel it, weigh it, bite it like a coin. A sufferer is somebody who behaves like a sufferer. Prove to me, here and now, that they do not suffer, that they do not think, that they do not in any way exist as conscious beings. Prove it to me. Prove that you only imitated suffering and did not create it.
You know that's impossible. Even before I started, when the box was still empty, I had to anticipate the possibility of just such a proof in order to rule it out. Otherwise, the monarch of that kingdom, sooner or later, would have got the impression that his subjects were not real subjects at all, but puppets, marionettes. Try to understand there was no other way to do it.
I understand that. I understand it only too well. You set out with the noblest of intentions. You set out to create a kingdom so lifelike that nobody could tell the difference. Well, in that you've succeeded only too well. Only an hour has gone by since his return. But for them, the inhabitants of that box, whole centuries have gone by. How many generations have suffered? How many lives have been wasted and thrown away? And all to gratify the vanity of King Excelsius. You always act first and think later. What do you intend to do when we get there?
I'll take the kingdom away from him.
And what will you do with it?
I'll destroy it. I'll hold an election. Let the people choose a just ruler from among themselves.
You program them all to be feudal lords or obedient serfs. What's the good of an election? First, you'd have to change the whole structure of society and start again from scratch.
And where does the changing of structure end and the tampering of minds begin? Somehow they managed to break through the walls of their box and occupy the asteroid. And he isn't there. What have they done with him?
Look. They've discovered atomic energy. Look there. That seems to be the remains of the box. They've made it into some kind of temple.
I did understand. It was only a model after all, a process with a large number of parameters, a mock-up for a monarch to practice on with the necessary feedback, variables, multistats.
Yes, but you over-perfected your replica. Not content with building a clockwork mechanism, you created something which was possible, logical, inevitable, and you ended with the very antithesis of a mechanism.
Please, say no more.
Ha ha ha!